Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, HRASD Insiders. I'm here today with Ralph Shearing. He's the CEO of Telson Mining. Telson announced a large deal this morning. The deal is essentially to allow its second project, Tawaweto, to be put in production. They already have an existing mine, Campo Morato, in production. I think those of you that are familiar with Telson, if you are, realize it's, I think it wouldn't be impolite for me to say it's been a long and bumpy road, Ralph,
Yes,
the last few years. Why don't we just start with a thumbnail of sort of what brought you to today, I guess, and the way things developed over the last 4 or 5 years.
Sure, easily done. Well, I founded the company quite some time ago, Eric, and have been started to get active in Mexico in early or mid 1990s, and found the Tawaweto project in 1997. We did a very small amount of work on it. Gold went to $400 an ounce, and nothing was done until 2004 when we reactivated and the markets came back. We conducted all our exploration during 2004 to 2008 through 2008, came up with a really solid resource. And then we took that through pre-feasibility study to get a reserve. That was through, 2013, 14. And then in 2015, we had a Mexican group enter the company. It was a really pretty tough time for us. We almost lost the company. I was keeping it alive on my credit cards, and it was a real tough time.
Right.
But anyways, this group recognized the industry was coming back, came in and funded us in 2 reasonable fundings and started to work on Tawaweto. And the idea was to collect a big bulk sample, show proof of concept that we could make a concentrate that the market would buy. It was very successful. And based on that, we started to do pre-production at a toll mill, shipping out ore over 150 kilometers. We were making good money doing that because it was particularly high-grade material. And then in the meantime, we started to put together the construction and started to build the mine. And that was based out of getting a Trafigura loan facility in place. They agreed to give us $15 million to help the cost of the construction. We initiated construction. And in the meantime, we had an opportunity to acquire the Campo Morato mine that was a bit of a fire sale price from Nearstar. Nearstar was shutting down all their operations, and we bought Campo Morato for $20 million, a negotiated price of $20 million. And we're able to get it back into production after 4 months after acquiring it. So we had a pretty good year in 2018 at Campo, and we were using free cash flow from Campo to help fund our construction at Tawaweto.
Okay.
But then in 2019, we had some difficulties with metal prices at Campo Morato, and we had to put it on care and maintenance. And that was the end of our part of the funding for Tawaweto. And then we got into trouble with meeting our commitments to Trafigura. We couldn't build the project. We didn't have enough money, couldn't raise any money because the markets weren't supporting mining at that point in time. And so we basically defaulted in all our loan obligations to both Trafigura and Nearstar, and we entered into another pretty hard time for the company.
Right.
We had some management changes. I was able to reassume the CEO role, and then was able to repair the damage that was accumulated with Trafigura. We went down and met them, and we discussed how to get the company back on its feet, and we had the support of Trafi to attempt to do that. But they wanted us to, or basically required us to get all of the assets into a trust, which made their job easier and their security more real. If for some reason we defaulted, they could exercise the security a lot cleaner and a lot faster.
Right.
So that trust situation took 6-8 months to put in place. It was a real bureaucratic nightmare, for lack of a better word, in Mexico. Both Trafi and ourselves got very frustrated with the Mexican regulations for putting trusts in and the speed of which we were doing it, especially in the COVID environment. But anyways, we got it done. And after that was completed, then we were able to move our funding plan forward. And we've always been backed by the Ascendo Banco guys, Javier Reyes in Mexico. And he's recognized the project as Tabo Hueto as a premier project, wanted to get involved with it. And we've had a couple of news releases out in the past about those financings, but we could never get enough money to convince Trafi that we had enough money to actually complete the construction. So they wouldn't approve.
Right.
And that's really what we have accomplished in the last little while with this press release today. Now we have a fully funded package that's been supported by Trafi, and that has allowed us to move forward with the funding. So that's a real quick summary. I guess maybe I should answer your questions.
I think it probably bears repeating, because I mean, there are obviously no end of problems, but and when you read today's release, I mean, not surprisingly, because it's pretty common with financial releases where there's numerous parties. There's no shortage of legalese and ifs and maybes and wherefores and
caveats.
Yeah, we're not signing this in blood. Don't shoot us if it doesn't happen stuff. But the truth of the matter is, yes, you still have to negotiate this and negotiate that with Trafigura, but they've already agreed to this, or there wouldn't have been a news release. Like their approval was actually a precondition for this thing to be.
Yeah, absolutely correct. Yes, I mean, they would not have allowed us to announce this deal if they weren't supporting it and didn't. They obviously know what they want to do with restructuring and what they want to see in order to get the mine built.
Okay, and I know you've done a bunch of studies. You're very comfortable that you've got the cost nailed down now in terms of what it's going to take to get Tabo Hueto into production. I mean, you're quite confident with those numbers.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work over the past year, basically, in making sure we had good, solid quotes on all of the construction costs. We've brought in a power company that's going to operate and build our power generation supply. We're going to go to a gas-powered generators. So that is really no capital cost to us. They're going to put it in, build it, and operate it, and we're just paying for the power. All of the other studies for water line, for the river to get water into the mill, tailings disposal facilities, that's all first class estimates from reputable groups. So we have a really good handle on the cost. We estimate it to be about $12.7 million. That includes a contingency. But we've raised more money than that. And this whole funding plan is 25 million US. And a little bit is going to service some of the debt to Trafigura. We're able to get them a little bit of money to, get them comfortable with the situation. But we will have, a good $20 million that is available to build this project. So that's more than enough to get it done.
And obviously this was something where construction already started, so you don't have there's no permitting issues. This thing's fully permitted. It's just a matter of getting it built.
Correct. It is fully permitted and it's 50% constructed up till now. I mean, we have the mill structure in place, the flotation cells are installed, the foundation for one of the ball mills is more or less complete. Underground development is 90% advanced for the first 3 to 4 years of production. So we have done quite a bit of work on the site, anticipating getting into production a lot sooner than we have.
Okay, and I want to just jump back to Campo Morado for a minute, because one thing that's, part of what, I'd sort of gotten wind that this thing was getting pulled together, and you and I had a couple of conversations a couple of weeks ago, and one thing that really kind of heightened my interest, obviously Tabo Hueto is kind of the news. It's more of a gold focused project. It's going to get built, should be in production this year. But part of what really got my interest was the extent to which you've improved things at Campo Morado, which is not really, it's not in your financials yet, because your most recent financials just September 30th. But in the last 4 or 5 months, it sounds like you guys have really, really turned things around there.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work to really optimize the mill and the throughput through the mill. And granted, metal prices have helped us, Eric. I mean, the zinc prices have moved up nicely. But we have got the project running very smoothly. We're producing around an average of 2,100 tons per day through the mill. 2018 and most of 19 when we were in production, we were about 1,750 tons per day.
Right.
So that that's a really good improvement, and it's going well. As long as metal prices stay healthy, we are going to be in a good situation at Campo Morado. We're making really quite attractive free cash flow out of there right now. It's not huge amounts, but it's between $500,000 to $750,000 a month. So we're starting to use that to pay down a considerable amount of debt that we have on the project. But we also have a lot of ways we think we can increase the revenues out of that project. I was mentioning to you that Campo Morado it's not an easy mine because the metallurgy is pretty tough. Yeah. We get about 70% recoveries in zinc. We get 30 to 40% recoveries in silver, lead. And for our gold, we're only getting 15%. So 15% recoveries in gold and about 30 to 40% recoveries in silver. And Campo Morado, it's a big volcanogenic massive sulfide deposit, pods of mineralization. It's actually very rich in precious metals. We actually believe we can turn Campo Morado into a silver mine. It's got about 120 grams per ton globally on the global resource for silver, and gold is about 1.5 grams. So it's got a considerable gold content and silver content. So we need to get that gold and silver out of the material. We also have a tailings disposal facility that's got about 3 million tons of already processed tailings, and it contains good gold, good silver, good copper, and a little bit of zinc as well. Right. So we have a plan in place right now that we believe will bear fruit on that and allow us to increase those recoveries. In 2015, Nearstar had retained a group out of the UK called Malgwin Mineral Services to do what's called Detox Testing on the material out of the mill. Right. In that testing, they tested 2 zones. One was the zone where they were mining at the time, which we assume was the G9 zone, which was the best metallurgy on the deposit. And the other one was the most distal ore body called Reforming. And at G9 ore body, they improved recoveries of gold up to 60% and recoveries of silver up to 80%. And on the most distal ore body that had the worst metallurgy, they were able to get 45% recoveries in gold and 60% recoveries in silver. So those are huge increases to us. It's 400% increase in gold alone. So we've actually just getting a proposal in place from this group to come in, and we're going to get a pilot plant on site. They'll ship it over, and we'll use that pilot plant for 4 months to do all the metallurgical testing at the site. And we're going to test gold and silver recoveries with their leach ox, but even more than that, we're going to use they have a patented flotation recovery called Imaflot that we're going to test that, and they believe strongly that they can improve our base metal recoveries as well. So we've got a number of different paths to improve the recoveries off of the material, and then thereby increase revenue. And we also have another path to increase the revenue because Nearstar had a construction project going to increase the capacity of the mill by 1,000 tons per day. So from 2,000 to 3,000 tons per day. That expansion was 80% complete when they shut down the mine. So when we purchased it, we got all of that equipment. It's all on site. So we just need to do another engineering study to bring it up to current standards to see what it's going to cost. And if we can bring that expansion online, we could increase throughput by another 1,000 tons per day. And as I say, it was 80% built when they left it. So it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to get that up and running. Probably, I mean, in our situation, it needs capital.
Yeah.
And we don't have a lot of capital at this point in time. So
Yeah.
we're hoping to be able to get Campo Morado in the black by the end of this year. And, we'll be looking into the possibility of expanding that mill to 3,000 tons per day.
Yeah, well, I mean, this leach-ox stuff, I mean, I took a look at that, and it's hard to overstate how much impact that would have. I mean, you mentioned to me that the way this group operates, they provide the circuit, they essentially lease it to you. So there isn't a lot of CapEx. I mean, there'll be more OpEx, they're obviously not leasing it to you for free.
That's
But
right.
even so, I mean, the changes in gold and silver recoveries you talked about, I mean, that's NSR the NSR goes up like 80,
Oh,
$90 a ton. Like it's
it would,
it's a lot.
it would turn Campo Morado into a silver mine.
Yeah.
Okay, with obviously very good gold and base metal credits, but
Well, and one other thing, like we'll walk through today's deal in a second here, but to jump the gun on that a little bit, there is one other thing that's part of today's deal that has a not insignificant impact, like pretty much right away on your cash flows. And that's that part of this deal, or I guess in conjunction with this deal, you're buying out a sort of a near star royalty, I guess.
Yeah, correct. When we did the deal with Nearstar, there was a scaled royalty. So as the zinc prices went up or down, the royalty we would be paying them would go up or down from 0 to 4%.
Right.
So we had an option to purchase that royalty for US $4 million. And what we've done with Trafigura, and listeners should understand that Trafigura now owns Nearstar. So what we have accomplished is to exercise that option for shares, and we're issuing shares at a premium to the current market price. And that premium translates to approximately $2.5 million. So we're exercising that option for a current value of around $2.5 million US. That will really help our cash flows, because that royalty, when zinc prices are strong, it's a fair amount of money going out to pay that royalty.
Yeah, because that's probably 100,000, 150,000 a month or something like that. It's not,
Yeah,
not a chump change.
the strongest zinc price, it's 4%, so it's,
Right.
it's a fair amount of money.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
So that'll have an immediate positive impact even before any of this other potential stuff is in.
Yeah, I mean, it's in Trafigura's interest to do that as well, or Nearstar's interest, because that allows us to service our debt with them on the Campo Morado.
Right. Okay, so as things stand right now, let's just do a quick run through what you announced today, what today's deal is.
Okay, yes, it's a syndicate that came in to offer to fund us up to $25 million.
Right.
It consists of a US $12 million bank loan from the Ascendo Bank in Mexico. They're our main supporter, and in fact, they have been instrumental in pulling the syndicate together and getting the money raised for the private placement. The bank has the money.
Yeah.
So that's the first part. The second part is a streaming deal with Empress Royalties, a new streaming company in Vancouver. That deal, we will be delivering about 1.25 million ounces of silver in the first 5 years of the mine. And then after that, we deliver 20% of the silver for another 5 years. Okay. And then the stream disappears. It's over in 10 years' time. They are putting in $5 million that allows us to supplement the Ascendo loan. So that brings us up to $17 million. And then as part of another part of our group, another member of the syndicate is sorry, my mind just went blank here.
Endeavor.
Thank you very much. Endeavor Financial. I don't know how I would forget that. But they're leading the private placement of equivalent of 10 million Canadian, around $8 million US. That placement is currently oversubscribed, and the lead on that was Endeavor, and as well as the Ascendo Bank helped out on that as well. So that's the combined funding, and we are with that. The private placement is closing now. We're getting all the paperwork in. We expect it will be fully closed and approved by the exchange within 2 weeks' time.
Right.
And as soon as we have it closed, we will initiate work on the project. Then the balance of the funding, the loan, and the Empress is giving us $2 million up front, again, to help fund the initial startup of construction, and the balance of theirs stream amount and the Ascendo Bank loan will close when we get all of the final paperwork in place, and they have got their security perfected by getting into the trust we have with Trafigura. So there's a mechanism that allows other lenders or funders to go into the trust to be secured. So all of that's going to take, another month to 6 weeks. We're targeting to get it all done by the end of March, and we should have everything closed and moving forward with the full amount at that point in time. But we will start work right away.
Okay, and so once this is done, you're good. You'll have about, I don't know. I mean, and this includes the payment to Near Startup to buy out that royalty. 250 million shares out, give or take.
Yeah, I haven't done that math, but I think you're right. It'll be in that neighborhood.
Now, and just to give people some, something to compare or a yardstick here, what have you guys calculated as the sort of the current NPV of these two projects as things stand now that this funding is coming in?
Yeah, I've got those figures right here. We're hot off the press for our PowerPoint, which we're just finalizing. So we're expecting EBITDA for first for Campo Morado in the first 1 to 4 years.
Right.
We're expecting EBITDA around $37 million, and in years 5 to 9, I guess, $48 million in EBITDA.
Right.
And then if we go switch to Tahuehueto, early production, first 1 to 4 years, about 30.3 million, and then up to the life of the mine of the current resources, or current reserves, I'm sorry, 33 million. So, these are really healthy EBITDA numbers. It'll put us into the $60 to $70 million combined EBITDA from the both projects.
Right. And I think the notes that I saw from when you and I talked earlier, I think the NPV on the two projects, as things stand right now, I think it's about 190 million US. I think it's worth noting that that Telson, and if you look at most of their spreadsheets as they come out, they're using 10, 12, 15% discount rates. That's significantly higher than your average PA or PFS or even producer sometimes. The difference between like a 7-8% discount rate like most people use in a PFS and a 15% discount rate is huge. You could probably take those 15% discount rate numbers and double them pretty much. If you brought your discount rate down to 7.5, but I'm not saying Ralph is wrong here. 15% is probably actually the realistic rate to use. It's just nobody else does. It's pretty uncommon to see a discount rate that large. So I mean, these guys are not. They're not trying to put lipstick on these numbers. I mean, these are pretty conservative numbers as far as I can see. And one thing that 190 US, so your current market cap once the transaction's done and those shares are all issued, it's probably running at like 25% of your NPV, which is not high for something that's already got one operation going and should have another one going in a year. It's quite low actually. Which of course is why Ralph and I are having this conversation, because I think it's cheap. But the other thing that's worth mentioning, and I haven't dug in too much into the exploration stuff. I looked at it a little bit, but both of these projects, there's very significant exploration potential. I mean, you did a lot of work on both. I mean, Near started a lot of work on one, you did a lot of work on the other to get the 8, 10, 12 years of reserves. But like I think at Tahuehueto, there's actually a lot of resources that aren't included in this spreadsheet because they're not M&I yet, but they're there. I mean, you got a pretty big indicated resource as well, right?
Yeah, so I can comment on that, Eric. At Tabaweto, the mine life is calculated on the reserves, that measured and indicated reserves.
Right.
We do have measured and indicated resources that we believe can be upgraded that can double the mine life. So right now it's 8-10 years with what we have. With the resources that need to be upgraded, we could double the life of mine. But in and above that, we have a huge exploration potential on the project. This is to kind of explain it, Tabaweto is a district scale project, and Telson owns approximately 70% of the prospective concessions within that district. Our only competitor is basically Fresnillo, who have a sliver of ground around our internal concessions. We have only explored along one major structure with a couple of offshoots to that. And our average drill hole depth is about 200 meters. So this ore body along that major structure, which we've drilled over about 2.4 kilometers in strike length, is still open to depth, and it's still open along strike. The actual district is at probably 6 to 7 kilometers long that we know of right now. And my belief is that these structures will run the length of that district. However, they're hidden right now by overlying cover and need to be explored, a lot of them from underground as we continue on. However, we still have other mineralized structures that are exposed on surface that need to be drill tested. And we're very confident that we can add more resources, more reserves to the mine site or to the project as we bring this project into production and have enough money to start exploration again. So I can envision, it's something that we've been talking about with people for quite a while, is we envision, doubling or tripling the size of Tabaweto over the next 2 to 5 years. And we're building 1,000 ton per day underground mining operation now, but we can see it going to 2,000 or 3,000 tons per day. But with exploration success, which in my opinion will come very easy. And I know this project intimately. It's been my life for 20 years.
Right. Okay.
Campo Morado, real quickly, Nearstar developed really high level targets with sophisticated geophysics, geochemistry on a regional basis. We have 15 surface targets that are ready to drill, never been tested. Those need to be followed up, located and drilled. And then even within the underground workings, Nearstar conducted a lot of borehole geophysics, outlined buried targets, sort of stacked pods of massive sulfides or potential massive sulfides. And they drilled holes into a couple of those targets and intersected very good intersections and grades of massive sulfides. But there's not enough drilling in them yet to be able to call them a resource. We have to drill those as well. Okay. So again, there's little doubt in my mind that Campo Morado will be a much longer mine life than is shown by its current resources. The resources we're about 15-year mine life with current resources now.
Right. Okay. I mean, I think that covers everything. I mean, the deal today was a bit complicated, and I think you needed the background to understand how the pieces fit together. I mean, and like I said, it's been a long and bumpy road, and kudos to you, Ralph, for kind of
it's been an incredible amount of
surviving it, I guess would be the phrase.
Incredible amount of work.
And
yeah, it's been an incredible amount of work, and a very good team effort, not just from Telson, but from Trafigura, Sendo. Everybody has done a lot of work to get us to where we are now. So we're happy to be here, obviously.
So I mean, I think this is I don't generally deal with the production in that much, but I like a good turnaround story. I think that's what this one is. I mean, Campo has gone from probably negative $500,000 a month cash flow to positive $500,000 a month cash flow. That's going to jump up a bit again with this royalty buyout from Nearstar. I don't think the market really understands. I think you've mentioned it in a couple of releases, but I don't think the market really understands and maybe won't accept until they see financials that this thing has actually been turned around to a pretty large extent, and going from negative to positive $500,000 my capital is a pretty big deal in terms of valuation. And then now you've got Tabaweto on top of it. It just seems to me you got a really nice runway ahead of you here after so much work to kind of get this thing ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And one other point worth mentioning is that our current financial statements, because of the default that we ran into on the loan,
Right.
they're all short term. As soon as we have all of these loans restructured and the formal agreements in place towards the end of March 31st, they will all go back into a long-term loan. So there'll be an immediate improvement on the balance sheet.
So is that, yeah, because I remember when I first looked at the deal, somebody asked me to look at it, a friend of mine, and I looked at the balance sheet and it was just like holy crap. But a lot of the current, because right now it shows a relatively terrifying current liability number. A lot of that is basically just going to shift down into long term. You've got these sign-offs from traffic.
Exactly.
Okay.
It'll be about, I think it'll be about $20 to $22 million going into long term.
Okay. Yeah, and you mentioned that you figure what's left over with the way things are going right now at Campo, you figure you can just work your way through the liabilities in a couple of years, give or take.
Actually, if things continue on the way they are, we think we'll have the majority of the debt solved by the end of this year.
Okay. And again, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, it's not that surprising that people stayed away from the stock. And one thing, the current outstanding shares, just based on the way it trades, because it trades very low volume for a stock that has this many shares out. I assume there's got to be some share blocks somewhere that aren't going anywhere. I mean, they're not necessarily control blocks per se, but there must be a few big shareholders for the volume to be so low.
Yeah, there is, and we have a fairly large institutional holdings now, and especially now with these post funding from the Sendo, we will probably have institutional holdings in the 30 to 45% range.
Right.
So they're fairly large blocks of stock in founders and insiders' hands. So it's a pretty, although there will be a lot of shares out, it's pretty well held.
Right. Okay. I mean, I think that covers everything. I mean, there you have it. It's Telson Mining. The venture symbol is TSN, and the OTC in the US is SOHFF. Are you going to bring that up to QX or something now that you got some of this other stuff out of the way?
Yeah, in fact, I've been having those conversations the last couple of days. We're looking, it'll be a QB because our debt situation won't qualify us for QX.
Okay.
So QX would likely be next year. But one of the initiatives that we're planning is we want to start, obviously, marketing again. We haven't been able to market at all because of the financial condition of the company.
Yeah.
So we've hired one market awareness group here in Vancouver. We're likely going to be hiring another one in the US. We will be upgrading to the QB, OTC QB, to make it easier to trade. And then we're going to be looking at more of a long-term, like 1 to 1.5 year approach, a more senior listing in the US.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds good. Telson Mining, TSN of Vancouver. This looks like a good turnaround story to me, and I think this is one of these deals where if this works, they probably aren't going to need to do a lot more financing. So if you want to own the stock for 20 cents, there's kind of only one way to do it right now. Write a check, which is what I'm planning to do. So thanks for coming by, Ralph. I appreciate you taking the time. And I'm sure we'll be talking more over the next couple of weeks as this thing gets nailed down. But I think it's a good story. And again, congrats on pulling this together. I know it was a pretty tough situation, but you managed to slog through and get this thing done.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Eric. Really appreciate it. And as I say, it's never one person. It's a team of people working to get there.